The first time I slipped into one of Mom's dresses, I was 13, trembling with a mix of fear and exhilaration. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon, the house empty except for me, the perfect moment to indulge in something I had secretly longed for but never dared to explore. The fabric felt foreign yet familiar against my skin, the soft cotton brushing my legs in a way my jeans never did. I stood in front of the mirror, heart pounding, staring at the stranger. No, the real me, staring back. For years, I had pushed these feelings away, burying them under layers of denial. Boys weren't supposed to want this. Boys weren't supposed to dream of flowing skirts, delicate jewelry, or the gentle curve of hips. But I did. And in that stolen moment, wrapped in my mother's clothes, I finally let myself admit it. The guilt came afterward, sharp and suffocating. What if someone found out? What if Mom walked in and saw me like this? I quickly stripped off the dress, folded it neatly back into her drawer, and retreated to my room, my face burning with shame. But the longing didn't disappear. It lingered, growing stronger with each passing day until it became impossible to ignore. Months passed, and my secret experiments became more frequent. I learned which of Mom's clothes fit me best, how to drape a scarf just right, even how to walk in her low-heeled shoes without stumbling. Every stolen minute in front of the mirror felt like a glimpse into a life I desperately wanted but didn't know how to claim. Then, one evening, disaster struck. I had been careless, lost in the thrill of trying on a new blouse I'd never dared to touch before. The sound of the front door opening sent a jolt of panic through me. I scrambled to change, but it was too late. Mom stood in the doorway of her bedroom, her eyes wide with surprise. My stomach dropped. This was it, the moment I had dreaded for years. She would be disgusted. She would yell, or worse, look at me with pity. I braced myself for the rejection, my throat tight with fear. But it never came. Instead, Mom stepped inside and quietly closed the door behind her. She didn't speak at first, just studied me, the blouse half-buttoned, my face flushed with shame. Then, to my astonishment, she reached out and straightened the collar, her fingers gentle. "It suits you," she said softly. Those 3 words shattered something inside me. The dam broke, and suddenly I was sobbing, all the fear and loneliness pouring out in uncontrollable waves. Mom pulled me into a hug, holding me as I trembled, whispering reassurances I hadn't even realized I needed to hear. That night changed everything. Mom didn't just accept me. She helped me. She taught me how to apply makeup with a steady hand, how to walk in heels without wobbling, even how to style my hair in ways that felt feminine and right. She shared her own stories of self-discovery, the struggles she'd faced growing up, and how she had learned to embrace herself despite the world's expectations. With her support, I began to explore my identity in ways I'd never thought possible. We went shopping together, not as mother and son, but as 2 women sharing something beautiful. The first time I stepped out in public wearing a dress, my hand clutched tightly in hers, I was terrified. But Mom never let go, her quiet confidence giving me strength. It wasn't always easy. There were stares, whispers, moments of doubt. But with Mom beside me, I found the courage to keep going. Slowly, the girl I had always been inside began to emerge, no longer hidden, no longer afraid. Now, years later, I look back on those early days with a mix of nostalgia and gratitude. Mom didn't just give me permission to be myself. She showed me what unconditional love truly means. And together, we found something even more precious: peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you're exactly who you're meant to be. The first time Mom took me to get my ears pierced, I nearly backed out at the last second. The sterile, brightly lit jewelry store suddenly felt like an arena, and I was certain everyone could see right through me, like they knew I didn't belong there. My hands were clammy, my breath shallow, and I kept glancing at the door, calculating how fast I could bolt. But Mom just squeezed my shoulder and said, "You've got this," in that calm, steady voice of hers. And somehow I stayed. The pinch of the needle was sharp, but fleeting. And when the woman handed me the mirror, showing off the tiny silver studs glinting in my ears, something inside me clicked. It wasn't just the jewelry, it was the way they made my face look softer, more me. I couldn't stop smiling. Mom laughed and said, "Told you it would be worth it," before pulling me into a quick, proud hug right there in the store. That small victory gave me the courage to try more. With Mom's guidance, I started experimenting with my appearance in ways that felt authentic. She helped me grow out my hair, teaching me how to care for it, conditioners, heat protectants, braiding techniques I'd never even heard of before. We spent evenings watching tutorials together, practicing winged eyeliner until my hands stopped shaking, blending eyeshadow until the colors looked seamless. But the real turning point came when Mom suggested we go to a proper salon. Not just for a trim, but for a real feminine haircut, layers, face framing pieces, the works. I remember sitting in that chair, heart racing as the stylist ran her fingers through my hair, asking what I wanted. Mom, sitting beside me, gave me an encouraging nod. "Something that makes you feel beautiful," she said. And for the first time in my life, I let myself say it out loud. "I want to look like a girl." The stylist didn't even blink. She just smiled and got to work. And when she spun me around to face the mirror afterward, I barely recognized myself, in the best possible way. My hair fell in soft waves around my face, delicate and intentional. I looked pretty.
Right.
Tears welled up before I could stop them, and Mom reached over to squeeze my hand, her own eyes shining. After that, things started shifting in ways I hadn't expected. Mom began introducing me to her friends, not as her son, but as her daughter. At first, I worried, what if they reacted badly? What if they could tell? But Mom had already laid the groundwork, speaking about me with such casual confidence that no one questioned it. They just smiled and said, "Oh, she's lovely." And something deep inside me healed a little. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were still moments of doubt, days when the world felt too heavy. Like when I had to use the men's restroom in public because I wasn't confident enough to risk the women's, or when old classmates would stare at me in the grocery store, whispering behind their hands. But Mom was always there, a steady presence reminding me that I didn't owe anyone an explanation. One of the hardest hurdles was Dad. He and Mom had been divorced for years, and while they were civil, he wasn't exactly the most open-minded person. I dreaded telling him, convinced he'd reject me outright. But Mom insisted we do it together. We invited him over for coffee one afternoon, and I wore my favorite sundress, the pale yellow one with tiny daisies that made me feel light and happy. His eyebrows shot up when he saw me, but before he could say anything, Mom cut in. "We have something to talk to you about," she said, her voice firm but kind. I expected anger, confusion, maybe even disgust. But after a long silence, Dad just sighed and rubbed his forehead. "Well," he muttered, "I can't say I understand it, but you look happy. And that's what matters, isn't it?" It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. And for the first time, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, I could have this life, fully, unapologetically. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see a stranger anymore. I see myself. And when Mom hugs me and calls me her daughter, it doesn't feel like a fantasy. It feels like home. The journey isn't over. There are still steps ahead, maybe hormones, maybe a legal name change, definitely more conversations with people who might not get it right away. But for the first time, I'm not afraid. Because I'm not alone. I have Mom. And together, we've found peace. The first time I saw my chosen name written in ink, Sophia, on an official document, I cried. It was just a library card, something small and ordinary, but to me, it was proof. Proof that I existed, that I was real. Mom stood beside me at the counter, grinning like she'd just won the lottery, and when the librarian handed me the card, Mom whispered, "Welcome to the world, Sophia." It was the little things, really, that made the biggest difference. The way cashiers started calling me Miss, without hesitation. The way my reflection in shop windows finally matched the person I felt like inside. The way Mom would absent-mindedly correct relatives at family gatherings. She prefers Sophia now, as if it had always been that way. But the most unexpected gift of my transition wasn't just the changes in me, it was the change in Mom. I'd always known she was supportive, but I hadn't realized how much happier she seemed, too. She laughed more. She carried herself differently, like a weight had been lifted. One night, over cups of chamomile tea, she confessed, "I always wanted a daughter. I just didn't know I already had one." We started new traditions. Monthly spa days where we'd paint each other's nails and gossip about terrible rom-coms. Thrift store adventures where we'd hunt for vintage dresses and costume jewelry, giggling like schoolgirls when we found something ridiculous. Mom even taught me how to sew, patiently guiding my hands as I fumbled with the needle until I could finally mend a hem without her help. Then came my first pride parade. I'd been nervous. What if someone recognized me? What if I wasn't trans enough to be there? But Mom arrived in my doorway that morning wearing a rainbow-striped shirt and a determined expression. "We're doing this," she said, and that was that. Holding her hand in that sea of color and noise, surrounded by thousands of people who'd fought the same fears I had, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about belonging to something bigger. Mom squeezed my fingers as a group of older trans women marched past us, their silver hair gleaming in the sunlight, their signs held high. "That's you in 50 years, Mom murmured in my ear, and for the first time, I could actually picture it, a future where I got to grow old as me. The hardest part, ironically, wasn't the bigots or the awkward conversations. It was learning to be kind to myself. Some mornings, I'd still wake up and see him in the mirror, the boy I'd pretended to be for so long. On those days, Mom would wordlessly bring me her favorite lipstick, or drape her softest scarf around my shoulders, or simply sit with me until the storm passed. "You've always been a girl," she'd remind me. "Now you just look like one too." Last month, we scattered my old clothes at a donation center. My baggy jeans, my graphic tees, the baseball cap I'd worn every day in middle school. Mom made a whole ceremony of it, dramatically tossing each item into the bin like she was throwing rice at a wedding. "Rest in peace, dude," she joked, wiping away actual tears. I thought I'd feel sad, but all I felt was relief. Now, when I think about the scared kid who once hid in Mom's closet, trembling in a borrowed dress, she feels like someone else entirely. A ghost I've finally laid to rest. Tonight, as I write this, Mom is humming in the kitchen, baking the lemon cake we'll share to celebrate my 1-year anniversary of living full-time as Sophia. The house smells like sugar and possibility. Somewhere down the road, there will be new challenges, dating, maybe, navigating workplaces, possibly even surgeries. But none of that feels frightening anymore, because I'm not alone. I have Mom, and together, we've found so much more than peace. We've found joy. The summer I turned 18, Mom surprised me with a road trip, just the two of us, a borrowed convertible, and a map with no set destination. "We're following the sun," she declared, tossing my suitcase into the back seat. I had never seen her so carefree, her hair tied up in a silk scarf like some vintage movie star, oversized sunglasses hiding her mischievous grin. For 2 weeks, we drifted from coastal towns to mountain cabins, inventing new identities in every diner and gas station. I was Sophie, the art student in one town, Sophia, the aspiring novelist in another. Mom played along, introducing herself as my eccentric aunt or sometimes, with a wink, my much older sister. The freedom was intoxicating. No one knew us. No one questioned why my voice was a little deeper than most girls, or why my hands were slightly too large for my delicate wrists. I was just another young woman on an adventure with her mother, and that simple truth felt like magic. One rainy afternoon in a sleepy lakeside town, we took shelter in a tiny thrift store that smelled of lavender and old paper. As I sifted through racks of vintage dresses, Mom disappeared into the back. She emerged minutes later holding something wrapped in tissue paper, a 1950s prom dress, butter yellow with lace trim, almost identical to the one she'd worn in her high school photos. "For you," she said softly, "if you want it." I didn't trust myself to speak. In the cramped dressing room, as the rain pattered against the windows, I slipped it on. The fabric whispered against my skin, the fitted bodice hugging me in a way that felt like being held. When I stepped out, Mom's breath caught. "Oh, sweetheart," she murmured, adjusting the straps with trembling fingers. "You look like a dream." We bought the dress, of course. And that night, in our cozy motel room, Mom taught me how to waltz. "Every girl should know how to lead," she insisted, as the radio crackled with old love songs. We laughed until our sides ached, spinning and stumbling over the scratchy carpet, the yellow dress flaring around my knees. But the real gift came later, when the dancing was done, and we sat cross-legged on my bed with mugs of too sweet hot chocolate. Mom reached into her purse and slid an envelope toward me. Inside was a check, enough for my first semester at the fashion design school I'd been too scared to even apply to. "You're going to change the world," she said, one beautiful stitch at a time. I started crying then, great heaving sobs that shook my whole body. Not just because of the money, but because she saw me. Really saw me. Not as a project or a phase or even just her child, but as a person with dreams and a future that mattered. The years that followed were a blur of fabric swatches and late-night study sessions, of tearful phone calls home when the stress felt overwhelming, of Mom showing up unannounced with care packages of homemade cookies and new lipstick shades she just knew would look perfect on you. Then came my first runway show. I'd spent months designing a collection inspired by our journey. Soft silks that flowed like whispered secrets, structured jackets with hidden floral linings, armor with heart, Mom called them. Backstage, as models buzzed around me in my creations, I clutched my sketchbook like a lifeline. Right before the lights went up, Mom appeared in a whirlwind of Chanel No. 5, pressing a locket into my palm, the one she'd worn since her own mother gave it to her. "For luck," she said, fastening it around my neck. "Not that you need it." When the music swelled and my designs took flight under the spotlights, I spotted Mom in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief, her smile so wide it must have hurt. Afterward, at the after-party, a journalist asked what inspired my work. I didn't mention the years of hiding or the fear, or even the transition. I just gestured to where Mom stood across the room, resplendent in one of my dresses, laughing with a group of strangers like she'd known them her whole life. "Her," I said simply. "Always her." Last week, we buried the last ghost. Mom helped me box up the final remnants of him. Old school IDs, a varsity jacket I'd never worn, the single surviving childhood photo where I'd forced a smile through the misery. We didn't burn them or throw them away. Instead, we tucked them gently into the attic, like artifacts from a life we'd both outgrown. "You don't have to forget," Mom said as we sat on the dusty floorboards, our shoulders touching. "That boy kept you safe until you were ready. But now..." She turned my face toward the sunlight streaming through the small window. "Now you get to fly." And I have. This morning, as I zip up my suitcase for Paris, a prestigious internship, a tiny apartment waiting near the Seine, Mom bustles around my childhood room, pretending not to cry as she accidentally packs extra tampons and my favorite tea bags into my luggage. "You'll call every Sunday?" she asks for the 10th time, fiddling with a locket at her throat, the matching one to mine. I don't promise. Instead, I take her hands, stilling their nervous flutter. "Come with me," I say. "The city of light could use a little more of you." Her startled laugh fills the room, bright as the future stretching before us. And just like that, we're following the sun again. Thank you so much for watching till now. It means the world to have you here. This community is all about empowering each other and celebrating the incredible journeys of everyone on their path to living authentically. If you're ever feeling lost or alone, remember you have a whole family here for you. Hit that subscribe button. Smash that like button. And let's keep inspiring each other, sending you all the love and strength in the world. Until next time, live your life by your rules.